Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Eldred, and I'm with the Center for Best Practices. Thank you for joining us today for the Establish and Implement a Collective Vision for Community Partnership webinar. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items that I'd like to go over. First, attendees are in listen-only mode, and we will be recording this webinar today. We will take questions at the end of the webinar. Please use the question box for questions and we will read them out loud or respond to them individually. Also, the webinar recording and resource links will be sent later this week. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my colleague, Derek Lambert, to start the webinar.
Stephanie, thanks so much, and welcome everyone to this year's Schools Out Foods In webinar series, the first webinar of the series today, January 23rd. For those of you who are returning from 2017, we're excited to have you back as our partners in work on summer meals. We know we've got a wide range of partners. We'll get into that in just a minute. For those of you that are new to the webinar series, this is a monthly webinar series hosted by the No Kid Hungry Center for Best Practices that begins in January, runs through June, and focuses on a range of issues relevant to program outreach, planning, and implementation. As you can see on the next slide, we have the webinar series calendar is already in place. Today, we're talking about establishing and implementing a collective vision for community partnership. And from February through June, we'll be focusing on mobile meals, engaging the healthcare community and universities, working to serve meals at public housing facilities, and summer meals at non-traditional sites such as intergenerational and migrant sites. So we are really excited about the webinar series that is in place for this year. We have a lot of great community partners that are going to come to the table, share their work, and provide a venue for questions and answers so that you can get the information that you need to be successful in your community with these programs. We will have registration information for the webinar in February at the end of this webinar, so stay tuned for that. And we will have additional updates in our What's New newsletter that goes out monthly. If you haven't yet joined our newsletter, please go to bestpractices.nokidhungry.org and click on subscribe, and you can be a part of our network in that way as well. Let's go ahead and dive into our webinar agenda. Today, we are going to look at some key elements of collaborative planning, and we're going to look at some resources that are available for folks to begin collaborative planning, which we'll look at some of the basics of what it means, how you can use our website to leverage resources. And today's webinar, we really want to focus on examples of partnership, about how collaboration is really a tool that gets us to, it's a process that gets us to the place where we have effective community partnerships. And it's those partnerships that allow us to expand our impact. We're going to hear from partners in Florida and North Carolina, from the nonprofit community as well as state agencies. They're going to share examples of effective partnership. We're going to have Q&A. And as you're hearing folks share their stories, please enter your questions or comments into the chat box so that we can make sure to represent those concerns, represent those questions or challenges that you are facing, and share them with our expert panel today. And then at the end, we'll have our key takeaways, and we'll have information about next month's webinar as well, so you can stay plugged into the network. Before we get started, though, we want to know who's in the room. And we have a poll question that's about to come up. We want to find out which category of the 5 listed most closely matches your organization. I realize this may not be a perfect fit. In fact, our technology only allows us 5 options, so we had to limit it a little bit. But please go through in the next 10-15 seconds and vote and indicate whether you are a part of a school or a school district, a food bank or other community nonprofit, the faith community, municipal government, or state agency and USDA. And Stephanie, we're going to let this go for about another 5 or 7 seconds, and then we'll close the poll and have a look and see where folks are from. So take another 5 seconds or so, and then we'll close the poll and share results. Stephanie, we got a lot of folks voting there. Great, wonderful. And Stephanie, what are the results showing us?
So it looks like we have about 36% school district, 39% food bank or community nonprofit, 5% municipal government, and 20% state agency and USDA.
Okay, great. So we really have a broad cross-section, folks that are working in schools and communities through food banks, to implement the programs, also some municipal government, and then state agency and USDA, folks that are actually administering the program as well. That's great. We want to follow this up with a second question as well and hear about the current state of partnership as you look towards summer 2018. And for the folks out there on the phone, we're going to make this question very simple. You've only got 2 options. What is your single greatest objective for Summer Meals Partnership in 2018? Is it to establish new partnerships, or strengthen existing partnerships. And we recognize that there may be elements of both, but we're looking for the one that you are the most focused on for 2018. So we're going to give folks about 5 more seconds to click on establish or strengthen, and then we'll look at the results. And Stephanie, can you tell us what are we finding out there?
All right, it looks like we're about 54-46. 54% is establish new partnerships, and 46% is strengthen existing partnerships.
Great. So for our panelists out there who are going to be speaking soon, and for everybody else on the line, we know we've got a good mix of folks that are really out there trying to find new partners and folks that have already identified their partners and they're trying to deepen those relationships. So great. It's good to get the temperature of the room, figure out who's out there, what their goals are. And with that said, thinking about partnership, we want to dive right into a concept that really underlies our ability to effectively plan to work together, and that is collaborative planning. For those of you who were on last year's webinar series, this may be familiar. It's always good to have a refresher. For those of you who are new to the call as well, you may not know that collaborative planning is a meeting format where you're bringing folks together, you're bringing multiple stakeholders together to plan together to address complex problems, identify innovative solutions, and encourage participation from a wide range of actors to identify and manage potential sources of conflict. As seen on the slide, achieving the benefits of collaboration takes time and commitment. It may take a little bit more time than you currently expend in efforts that are just rooted in your own single organization. But as you reach out and you work with additional actors, it can lead to greater outcomes than you could achieve on your own. Collaborative planning helps us build and strengthen relationships in the community, identify barriers to working together, find those new ideas and opportunities to align our resources and strengthen our results. And so as you can see, collaborative planning, when we approach problems and challenges and even our opportunities from this angle by working together, we actually are being very deliberate about establishing partnerships, and those partnerships can yield greater results than what we can achieve if we're just out there doing it ourselves. There are some resources out there, and we're going to look at some, we're going to hear stories today. We're really going to focus on the stories from our partners in North Carolina and Florida and the questions you might have. But before we dive right in, I want to make sure that we level set and that folks on the call know that we have resources at your disposal to support effective collaboration. The No Kid Hungry Collaborative Planning Toolkit is available on our website, and it really helps you bring together major players in summer meals to achieve some of these goals, and it gives you 3 key steps to walk through to be able to plan and to collaborate effectively. The first one is engaging key stakeholders. This section of the toolkit, it really is just a brainstorming tool that helps you identify a list of key collaborators to identify in your planning group and to identify those partners in the community who may be unique contributors, folks that maybe you haven't thought about, maybe elements of the faith community that you haven't engaged. I noticed we didn't have many folks from the faith community on today's call. So we know those folks can be great partners. And so reaching out to them to engage them. Could be transportation authorities, could be municipal government. Again, we have a little bit of municipal government representation here, very happy about that. But these are partners, Parks and Recreation. Walking through this list of key stakeholders can help broaden the net that you're casting when you're looking for partners in the community. Number 2, creating and managing the plan. We know that the process of planning is just as important as a general commitment to collaboration or the plan itself. And so we've developed a planning process that helps take some of the fright out of preparing for a meeting to developing a final shared plan. This section of the toolkit includes tips. It includes some templates and guides to help you host or facilitate a planning meeting, develop a collaborative plan to work together with community partners, and also follow through to have those follow-on calls, those check-in monthly agendas, so that you can make sure that everybody's still on the same page. And then finally, the third section, wrapping up and renewing commitment, provides resources to hold a summer debrief meeting where you come together at the end of the summer to learn what worked well, what your challenges were, and to kind of chart out already a roadmap for the year ahead for planning and preparation for summer 2019, dare I say. So by these 3 sections, the Collaborative Planning Toolkit really provides you the resources and the tools and the information that you need to plan collaboratively and to engage in partnership. And we want to think about key venues for collaboration. As you're listening to today's call, you're going to hear about how some of our partners have worked together. They're going to give you examples of community partnership that they've engaged in. But I just want to call out some key venues that are usual suspects for collaboration, where we can identify people who may be already engaged in this work that may be able to work with us as partners. If there are existing food policy councils in your community, that's a great way to reach out folks who may not be focused specifically on summer meals, but would have an interest in making sure that kids have access to the food that they need throughout the year. Summer debrief and planning sessions, some of which may be led by the state agency or community nonprofit organizations. This is a great place to bring sponsors together, to also bring together community partners and additional organizations. We know in some states, like in Dallas, Texas, and in Virginia, regional sponsor councils, where actually community nonprofits in partnership with state agencies or with support from state agencies have actually brought together sponsors specifically on a quarterly or a biannual basis to identify opportunities for strategic outreach, for strategic expansion of service. And then finally, we don't want the great to be the enemy of the good. So there are also opportunities in informal or ad hoc meetings that you may have in your community, conversations that may occur on the sideline of another meeting, to really have the mindset of collaboration and partnership in place so that if an opportunity presents itself to talk about summer meals, to talk about the work you're doing, you are using this information and these tools and these resources to inform the work that you're doing in summer meals. So the folks on the call today are prime movers for change to affect growth and expansion in summer meals through collaboration. And again, I would like to remind folks that we're going to hear a lot of great stories today, lots of examples of how nonprofits and state agencies have supported collaboration, even at the state level and the community level. But as you're listening, keep an ear tuned to really, what is something I can do today? What is something I can do this week? What is something that is easy for me to do that I can get started now? Don't think that it has to be fully formed in your mind or fully formed even across your organization to go ahead and start implementing some of these keys to collaboration and partnership. And with that said, I want to go ahead and dive right in and introduce our first panelist. We're going to hear from our partners in North Carolina to start. I want to introduce Tamara Baker, who is the Communications and Project Director from No Kid Hungry, North Carolina, which is now based at the UNC Center for Health Promotion and Disease Prevention. A part of No Kid Hungry since its formation in North Carolina in 2011, Tamara leads the summer and after-school nutrition focus for her team and directs a federal SNAP education grant for improving nutrition policy, systems, and the related environment for children in low-income areas. Tamara began her career in Washington, D.C. as press secretary for a member of the Agriculture Committee in Congress, then worked with USDA Information Services before moving to a large PR agency where she led global public relations for the relief agency Feed the Children. She was relocated back to North Carolina by the pharmaceutical leader GlaxoSmithKline. And she informed me last week they got 11 inches of snow in Raleigh, North Carolina. So they were snowed in down there much more than us up here in the Mid-Atlantic. So we're glad they were able to join us. And also we have Cynthia Irvin, Summer Nutrition Program Manager from the North Carolina Department of Education. Cynthia has administered the Summer Food Service Program for nearly 13 years and the Seamless Summer Option for nearly 5 years. Cynthia is a registered dietitian and has worked as a food service director with Aramark Services for over 21 years. She credits the Summer Nutrition Program for helping her to realize her true passion and job fulfillment, which is ensuring that no child in North Carolina is without the basic necessity of nutritious meals. Tamara and Cynthia, I know you folks are on the line together down in North Carolina. Welcome to the webinar, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Next. Okay. We are going to talk today. This is Tamara Baker speaking, and thank you for letting us be a part, Derek and Stephanie. We are going to talk about the summer nutrition programs in North Carolina. And we use that moniker, summer nutrition programs, because we really just like to erase the line between summer seamless option, which only the schools can run, and the summer food service program, SFSP, because it just really muddles the message trying to explain that to the people who don't need to be worrying about that. That's the only talk within the organization and those people affected. So next. So the first question we ask is, how big is our challenge in North Carolina? And we say almost 1 million kids. Well, we only have 1.5 million kids in the public school system, but we know they have siblings at home, so 1 million is really even an underestimate. But we know that we have more than 900,000 now, which is more than 60% of the schools, of the kids in the traditional schools that are eligible. Next. It's all about collaboration, and we really know that. So much of our No Kid Hungry team, the leadership, we have a long background in communications and marketing, and we look to the experts to do what they do well, and then we try to bring our capabilities to do what we do well. The public schools of North Carolina, they're not actually called the State Board of Education. It confuses people, or the Department of Education, but it's actually called the Department of Public Instruction, so DPI is what we call them, and if you hear that acronym. We knew from the moment that we formed No Kid Hungry in 2011 that they were going to be a fabulous partner, because as soon as I called Cynthia Irvin, she just said, hallelujah. I was hoping I would hear from you, and has had that same exuberance from the moment that we both spoke. They are excellent at program administration, the regulatory expertise, training the organizations that are involved or want to be involved, and they are especially good at customer service. And we hear that again and again from all the rank and file to the leadership of these organizations, is that when they ask a question, the state agency just bends over backwards to take care of their needs. And then the circle to the right, the shared program focus. We care, our only mission is care about the programs that DPI and the other state agency, Department of Health and Human Services, run that are devoted specifically to child nutrition. We also have some really deep data analysis capability. When No Kid Hungry North Carolina moved over to UNC in March of 2014, it gave us access to some great graduate and research assistants and PhDs. So we now can take the data that the state agency generously shares with us on a regular basis, and we're proud to say they rely on us to cut and slice and dice it and make it so that it's then our communications people then turn around and use it to a way that the general public can understand. As I also mentioned, we have not only the marketing, but we have the communications capabilities, and especially events expertise. We love to throw parties, and we like to throw a fun party, and we like it to be memorable, and that's what we think this whole world of the child nutrition needs a great deal more. We also have a pretty broad reach. We've invested in the professional email management campaigns and the software needed to do that, and we track on a regular basis of our database of about 10,000 in North Carolina who care about our calls, that we can tell you every individual and how often they've opened their emails and how long they stayed there. We could not do this without additional resources. No Kid Hungry North Carolina is grant funded, including a grant from DPI that helps support our work, our state agency, but we also now are in our third year of a federal grant from the SNAP education organization. The implementing agency is at our parent university, and we're just thrilled to be a part of that we can have those dollars to help fund our staff and to fund the work that we do, so that we can have a much richer opportunity and be able to reach a lot more people. And the Dairy Alliance, that's a new logo that just came out January 1. That's formerly the Southeast United Dairy Association, and they have now rebranded themselves the Dairy Alliance. And they are quick to say, we have grant money, please help us figure out where to give it. We have dollars we have a call immediately after this one, we have dollars for investing in promotion, and we want to make that happen. So we're really thrilled to partner with them as well. Many, many more partners, but this is a quick snapshot of the ones that we're working on so closely with summer meals. Next. Our goal, initially from the day that No Kid Hungry was formed, we met with DPI and said, our goal is really to increase relationships first with the school districts, because it seems to be that no one is really giving them nearly as much love and attention as they need, and tell us how they're doing on summer meals and serving as sponsors. And we were really unpleasantly surprised to learn that only 50% of the school food authorities were serving summer meals. And so we developed a plan with DPI, and we went after those school districts, and we have had a tremendous transition so that now by 2017, just 6 years later, summer meal sponsors, 85% of the school food authorities were serving summer meals, which is pretty remarkable. And just to note, we have 115 school districts, public school districts in North Carolina, so that's a pretty big chunk of an increase in sponsors. Next. Okay. All right, this is just a slide that gives you a quick snapshot of some of the wins. Again, we care a great deal about policy change and environmental change so that we can do a better job and not just rely on the promotion and awareness. We partnered with our state agency, and we're able to have this first USDA waiver. We understood later, we learned at a national conference we were the only waiver that year. It just really made it easier for school food authorities and their professionalism and expertise. It accounted for more of that in getting them qualified to serve summer meals. And so we've even come a much further along since then, but we were very excited to see that just within a few months they actually changed, that waiver became regulatory change nationwide. Next was our summer food service program was under another state agency, and 3 years ago now it transitioned so that both Summer Seamless and SFSP were under our Department of Public Instruction. And with that came the package of Cynthia. She actually came a little bit before the program came, and Cynthia had a long, deep roots of experience and capability, and so by having that leadership move over to DPI, then they were golden, and but we're able to then do a much better job of incorporating the needs and helping guide organizations, especially school food authorities, whether it was better for them to start with the extension of the National School Lunch Program or to move on over to SFSP. Office of the Governor engagement, we were very fortunate when we were formed in 2011. We had Governor Bev Perdue, a Democrat, who was very engaged and actually sought for the program to come in North Carolina, and we were staffed out of the governor's office. We transitioned and had a change in leadership at the governor, in the governor's office, but fortunately are very much as of this administration, we are back in the great seat of working with our current governor, who is again a Democrat, Governor Roy Cooper, and his wife Kristen Cooper. And Kristen Cooper has made child hunger an important cause on her platform, and she shows up at a lot of our events. You can see her enjoying school breakfast on the photo, and we're just really thrilled with that. We have a new state superintendent who we have a very, very conservative legislature, and he is also conservative, but he is really getting excited about summer meals, and Cynthia will tell a little bit more about that later. So we've been able to already get him involved by doing some videos. He loves to do video casts, so we're working to do as much of that as we can. And then very fortunately, the head of school nutrition at our state agency, so Cynthia's supervisor is now the president of the National School Nutrition Association. So we have some input into advocacy there as well. Next. Key events, I'll move quickly here. We like to throw a lot of events, and we like for them to be memorable, and we love themes. And our North Carolina Child Hunger Leaders Conference, we are now 7 years old, and our conference is, we were about to, on February 15th, we're holding our 7th statewide conference, where we really bring in all the organizations that make up the community of child hunger and serving that need. And it is quite an ordeal. We have already, we have 200 people registered for the conference, and we're pretty excited. We also then go to the School Nutrition Association. We have summer events, nutrition education. We have a lot of events we support. Next.
So this is Cynthia, and this goes on that same thing. We do a launch each year where we're really bringing light to the summer meals program, and this was the 2017. And this one actually featured Lynn Harvey's celebration as becoming the School Nutrition Association president, but also having Grant Gano from the Carolina Panthers and the governor's wife there also was a highlight. Next. So this is Ray. Ray is, well, actually, I wanted to just tell you how we came with this. Last year, we did a contest for middle and high school students to help brand the program. And basically, out of that, we have our logo on the left and our mascot on the right. They are called Ray. And Ray has a whole new agenda. He has actually brought a lot of life to our program. And so, in fact, he has actually just recently had a photo shoot with the state superintendent. He's on the schedule to go to the Board of Education on February, and he's even going to take a trip to the General Assembly. So we launched actually contests too, and now we're looking for middle and high school students to really help us to come up with promotional material for both Ray and the program. Next, okay? And so speaking of collaborative events, this is our signature event, the Summer Paloozas. And each year we do this in November. So it started in 2014 when I was the Lone Ranger in summer nutrition. So naturally, who would I reach out to really help me with this process? I reached out to No Kid Hungry with all of their experience in marketing, event planning, and then with their great data, how they were able to come up with so much data. This began in 2014. We first started doing our county-specific data to identify what the participation was per county. Today, we actually have launched even greater. Next slide. So here's some of the things that we put out in 2017. And while you might not be able to see that URL, you can actually go to nokidhungrync.org/summer-calendar to actually access this. But this is a planning calendar we actually provided as a part of our Summer Paloozas. And it actually walks sponsors through not only what they can do for the programmatic, they actually have promotional ideas, and then there's just things that they just need to know of what's going on and targets of what they need to meet. So it's a great planning calendar that shows them that the planning of the program is a year-round program.
Next.
So Turn Up the Beat is actually one of the ways that we actually award sponsors at the Summer Paloozas. So last year we actually had almost 30 awards. Of those, 13 were Turn Up the Beat. Most of you understand that the Turn Up Beat is really focused on those sponsors who actually really provide high quality, nutritious meals during the summer. But in addition to these, we actually have additional sponsors that we really like to give our sponsors, and we like to award them for what they do.
Next. So that's really all that we have in terms of the slides to present. This is our entire team, and we're commingled because this is at the National Summer Summit that we so enjoyed, and this is Cynthia's team and our team, and sometimes I forget who's on which team. That's how closely we work together. But it really is a great collaboration. Cynthia and I are in the middle. Cynthia's on the left. I'm on the right. And we just are so thankful that we can work together as closely we do with the, no holds barred. We're working the No Kid Hungry office all day today, for instance, and Cynthia is generously giving us her time. But I would just encourage you to go to our website and see most of our resources. We try to keep them really fresh and current, and that means the state agency has us to put their resources there constantly and everyone else's. So go there, look around, and feel free to give us advice if there's something you feel like should be changed. But we want to make sure that summer is a very active, flexible, and vital organ that the sponsors and potential sponsors are always engaged in.
Tamara, Cynthia, thank you so much for all of this good information and for sharing all the levels on which you're partnered. I also would just love to give a call out thanking you and your team, and especially I know Andrew, who is in the room there with you guys. You mentioned Dr. Lynn Harvey, the president of SNA. Your team, working with DPI, generously helped set up a recorded message that talked about the importance of summer meals and talked about schools as nutrition hubs, which is, you know, a strategy that fits right into a lot of the work with summer meals. And the work you've done is really great. And, you know, for those in our audience, I'm just thinking as well about all the different funding opportunities that you highlighted with the Dairy Council, the Dairy Alliance, and all of the opportunities you've had to work with DPI strategically to expand summer. Tamara, I'd like to follow up with a quick question linked to some of your comments. Can you talk about the goal setting that occurred around getting SFAs or school districts to become program sponsors? You mentioned, you know, having that goal of going, you know, increasing the number of sponsors that were schools up from that 15% in 2011. Now you're all the way up to 85%. How did you achieve alignment with DPI on this objective? And how did the goal that you set together inform the work that you did within communities to increase access to summer meals?
Well, our focus, this is Tamara, so our focus since forming No Kid Hungry in North Carolina was really to form relationships of trust with the school food authorities. We began initially, of course, working with them on school breakfast because in North Carolina, of 115 school districts, virtually all of them are serving school breakfast. And I know that's not the case everywhere, so we're fortunate in that. But yet our numbers were way down. We were still, I think, down about 46% of those eating lunch at school, the FRP eligible, were eating breakfast. So we said, let's really work on these relationships. And we have built those over time significantly and been able to grow school breakfast up to 59% now as a result of that. But along the way, we started inundating them with positive messages about converting to be summer sponsors as well. We looked for every opportunity to promote this message that we possibly could at events and our email campaigns and tracking who was on board, and especially recognizing and rewarding them for their great behavior. We started with breakfast awards, and then Cynthia and I collaborated, and we started doing summer awards as well, and it does make a huge difference. They want a picture they can show their boss of them getting some special recognition. And, you know, DPI had the same goals. They wanted school food authorities to serve more summer meals. So when they were able to transition the state agency so that they were administering both summer programs, it really, they had the leadership they needed, they had the capabilities, they had the enthusiasm, so it was really just a no-brainer for us to keep working together to convert as many school districts as we could to being really assertive in going after summer. And especially converting, so many of them were doing the summer seamless, and we know they get more funding through SFSP, and so that was one of the goals, was to convert as many of those even long-time sponsors under SSO to move over to SFSP. And the way it informed our work within communities was communities, you know, they were out there. They were out there beating beating the path every day and recognized the absence of the school food authorities. So for the most part, when we told them that when we would say, and we're so excited this school district is now going to be serving summer meals, they'd say, well, how can we partner with them? So we really used our relationship with them, with the school food authorities and the community, to try to bridge the gaps. We've done a lot of conferences where we make that our focus, and we're just really glad. We're working on something new right now, trying to get the communities, partners, and the school districts to really rely more heavily on their public information offices within their school districts to inform families year-round about about the availability of nutrition options through the federal nutrition program.
That's great. Thanks, Tamara. We've got time for one more question here, and then we're going to transition over to our partners in Florida. Cynthia, I wanted to follow up on the summer paloozas, which are the regional, planning convenings that occur around summer meals in North Carolina. Look, there were 4 of them last year. That, to me, from where I'm sitting, looks like a really ambitious partnership between the state agency and a nonprofit partner, namely No Kid Hungry North Carolina, and your convening folks. How does your work with the nonprofit partner, with No Kid Hungry North Carolina, how does that amplify the work of your staff? What are some things that you've been able to accomplish that might have been difficult to do otherwise? And if you could also, I know we've probably got people on the line who are thinking, I'd love to do that with my state agency, but I'm not quite sure how to start that conversation. What was the division of responsibilities in terms of what your team organized, what your team executed, and the role of your partner, your implementing partner, No Kid Hungry North Carolina, at those events.
Absolutely, and this is definitely one of our key areas that we really focus on, because it really took away from all of having a lot of other meetings and debriefing. But from its conception, No Kid Hungry was right there from the beginning. Even though the Department of Public Instruction actually came up with the idea, once we launched it to No Kid Hungry, they have been there as a part. So let's just kind of walk through. The first year, they were really helpful, and they brought all the information as far as data, so they could bring in the data and now look at county specific. And now this year, you saw from the slide how much they did. So this year was really unique, and in that I don't believe I think we did it all together. While the Department of Public Instruction actually was the overall administrator, No Kid Hungry was there. We met numerous times to talk through. We actually went out to find the actual presenters. They helped out with funding and resources, and they came to all four and presented at all four. So I think basically I would say this is more like our project that we do together. It's not like one or the other. We actually kind of own this together.
That's great. Thank you, Cynthia. And hearing about that shared investment in a project like that, I think is a real inspiration to folks that are looking to partner with the administering state agency or state agency folks that want to work with nonprofits. Hearing about the positive outcomes from that work together is really encouraging to hear. And with that being said, we're going to transition to our next story. I want to thank Cynthia and Tamara again for their time and for their stories. We may have some time for questions at the end as well. If you have questions, again, as you're listening, feel free to submit them in the chat box. We'll bring those up to our audience, to our panelists. But we do want to move on and transition to Julie Crafel and Rachel Moeller from Florida. Julie Crafel is South Florida program coordinator with Florida Impact. She began working with Florida Impact in March 2010 to coordinate the summer nutrition marketing strategies in Palm Beach County. Julie brings more than 20 years of experience in marketing, advertising, strategic development, execution and program management, community relations and outreach, and team and coalition building. Julie's career has included service as the Director of Community Building and then Vice President of Community Impact at the United Way of Broward County, and work with the Marketing and Communications Divisions of Florida Power and Light Company, the North Broward Hospital District, and Walt Disney World. Julie studied at the University of London and is a magna cum laude graduate of James Madison University. Julie will be presenting the slides today on behalf of Florida Impact. During the question and answer session, she'll be joined by Rachel Moeller, who is the SFSP Director for the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. In this role, Rachel supervises the management of the Summer Food Service Program in the state of Florida. Rachel holds a Bachelor's of Science and a Master's of Science in the Science of Nutrition from the Florida State University. She is also a registered and licensed dietitian in the state of Florida. Before joining the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Rachel was the Director of Nutrition and Programs at America's Second Harvest of the Big Bend Incorporated Food Bank in Tallahassee, Florida. Rachel is a fifth-generation Floridian, mother of 4, all of whom are 7 and under, and is happily married to her best friend, Matt. So Julie and Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. And Julie, I believe you are going to kick us off with the slides, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Derek, and thank you for the opportunity. And Rachel, hello to you in Tallahassee. I'm down in Broward County, Florida, which is in the Fort Lauderdale area, just for context. As Derek said, today I'm going to talk about focus on partnerships that came about and how we've continued to grow them in number and scope every year. And I'll talk about what the initiative we've been working on is all about. I'll address why these relationships matter, how to build them and how to bolster them, and provide concrete examples of how to build partnerships and relationships, and how this works connects the dots and rallies organizations to work together to create committed, sustainable partnerships and initiatives. So the way we started with this particular project, and please go to the next slide. And you can hit the bar, it'll show a list. The challenge was we had a high concentration of at-risk children that didn't have transportation to summer break spot sites. So the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services challenged us at their annual Summer Food Service Program meeting to come up with a program or an initiative that would provide outreach to housing authority children that have no ability to participate in summer programs. So at that particular meeting, we connected with Meals on Wheels of South Florida and Broward County Housing Authority, actually through relationships that we had there. And we thought it would be ideal for Meals on Wheels of South Florida to be one of our partners, and they were very interested in becoming a summer food service program sponsor. And because of the work that we've done with them, they changed their mission to serve people of all ages, which was quite a big thing for them. They've also presented about our program that I'm going to talk about in a second around the nation as well. So we also, in addition to this, leveraged existing relationships with the Children's Services Council of Broward County, and the Broward County is where I am, like I said, the Broward County Community Action Partnership Human Services Regional Coordinator. So we had some meetings with the executive directors, got them on board, and then from there, Florida Impact organized and coordinated community partner meetings to plan, develop, and execute the summer break spot, we call it in Florida, but summer food service program. So in this process of getting the meals and out to kids that were unable to access them themselves, we started developing some partners and realized that not only did the kids need the meals and the nutrition throughout the summer when school's out, but it would be really helpful to them to provide enrichment activities for them. And that has turned out to be just an incredible enriching environment for them all summer long. It has eliminated all any kind of vandalism at the housing authorities. The kids look forward to it every year. But I do want to stay focused on how we built these partnerships and how it came along. You can see under the collaboration list on the slide, we had 30 partners this year, and we started out with about 3 or 4, and each year we built the number of partners, and I will explain how those relationships were built and what happened with that on the next slide. So you can see here, these are some of the activities that we had with the kids provided through Summer Break Spot. We had some arts and crafts. We had our law enforcement partnership, which was really positive, and I'll talk about that in a second. We also had Swim Central, and we also did a literacy program. So the first year, as I said, we had started small, and some of our activities included alcohol and drug prevention. We partnered with our local United Ways Commission on Substance Abuse for that, and also our local lung association, who came out and did education on tobacco and that sort of thing. One of the things that we really wanted to do was partner with some municipalities. So we partnered with the city of Dania Beach. Their sheriff's office provided enrichment activities for the children that included stranger danger, bringing in the bloodhound unit, bringing in their police cars, fire engines, et cetera, for the kids to learn about the work that they do. And they did simple things too, like hula hoop activities, play kickball, soccer, whatnot with the kids, just to establish that relationship on a different level with them so that they could get to know the police department as people and have fun with them. One of the ways that we developed different relationships in different communities was by identifying the zip codes in Broward County that were in greatest need. And we worked closely with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to identify those areas, and also use their roadmap to healthy living, which is a way that we can go in and look at what the stats are, what the numbers are, and where we need to focus. One was one was our municipality, Coral Springs Police Department, that we partnered with, but we got to them by reaching out through the city of Coral Springs, which is a city in Broward County, and really got nowhere. We got that there wasn't a need, that they really didn't want to get involved with our work, with the Summer Break Spot program, et cetera. So then I leveraged a contact that I have in the community who knew the exact right person to reach out to for that work that we wanted to do in Coral Springs. And we were put in touch with the community involvement coordinator, and the city of Coral Springs developed this summer Bright Spot program with us as a small pilot. The next year we partnered with a school and had the program there, and the city of Coral Springs community involvement coordinator and the police department ran a really successful summer Bright Spot program where they had the meals delivered. They did the activities, and it was hugely effective with the community of the at-risk area that needed help so much. They had the elected officials come out that summer, and as a result, seeing the success, the city put the summer Bright Spot program through, or summer food service program through the city of Coral Springs police department in a line item in their budget, and is funded from there. And just really to give a shout out to them, they were also featured in USA Today that year. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. You saw the robust list of all of our partners, and this particular year, back in this past summer in 2017, we expanded our partnership with Broward County School District, Broward County Libraries, and an initiative called Broward Reads. We had partners come out and read. We did a book drive where we had 2,500 books donated to our housing authority and low-income apartment sites. We created reading corners, etc. And this relationship was originally started through Children's Services Council and doing a book drive. That was 2 years ago. And this past year, as I said, we grew it to small libraries in each location. The kids checked out their books. They could log their reading hours. And we engaged multiple volunteers and readers to come out 4 different times in the summer and do Broward Reads. As a result of this involvement in this partnership this summer, I was asked to join the Broward Reads Committee, which is comprised of people all around the county. It's school folks, library folks, nonprofits, even Barnes and Noble is on the committee. So this kind of expansion not only helped the kids, but it helped us get our word out to all these different community partners and how we can work with them in upcoming summers. What kind of initiatives can we develop? What kind of support can they provide, etc. So it's a very sort of a symbiotic way, I guess, to work, that we are engaging them at no charge. They do all their programming and so forth at no cost, all in kind. And we also, as I say, engage Children's Services Council quite a bit. They fund a small stipend for our site coordinators to work in the summer, and the site coordinators also volunteer, but it has created them building their resumes and being able to secure employment after their experience. You can next, please. Another initiative that was very successful this summer was partnering with Children's Services Council and our Social Innovation Fund grant through Share Our Strength and Florida Impact's work to get an organization out called Seeing the World. They did vision screenings and provided free glasses to kids. The kids that are in the right-hand part of this picture are all siblings or cousins, so they were all excited that they all were getting their glasses. They were trying on samples and had a lot of fun with that. The kids, like I said, got free glasses. Some kids had referrals because they were under Medicaid, but they were all able to improve their potential for learning and so forth with getting vision screenings as well. We also partnered with the Broward County Health Department. They came out and did many different demonstrations with hand washing, personal hygiene, those sorts of things for the children as well. Some of our partnerships that have been ongoing have been YFIT. We've worked with Broward Regional Health Planning Council and their touch grant through the CDC to have YFIT come out to the zip codes where they're focused on healthy living. We've partnered with organizations to do cooking demonstrations, the University of Florida Family Nutrition Program. We've had Memorial Healthcare System come out and do healthy living with our group. That's from developing relationships, from attending community meetings and making presentations. And as a result of that involvement, Florida Impact sits on the Community Health Needs Assessment Committee for Broward County now, so our voice is heard on not only summer food service program, but also after school meals and breakfast in schools. We also engage dietetics interns through universities in our partnership with Meals on Wheels of South Florida, who help us implement the My Plate curriculum from USDA. Next. So our results over the years, and this is for our mobile program at our housing authority and low-income apartment sites, and also some of the libraries that we've added as well. You can see where we started in 2014, and we're now up to serving many more kids and many more meals, and every year expanding. And again, it's by being part of the community organizations, it's by being able to leverage our partnerships and expand them every year, and motivating people to see that it's really important for the kids to have their meals and their nutrition, absolutely, but it's also really important for them to be engaged in meaningful, enriching activities throughout the summer. And we've been able to not only bring community organizations on board and provide their services in kind, and make it part of their planning every year, but to expand their involvement every year. Next slide. So basically, I've kind of reviewed a lot of this, but the key takeaways on building the successful, innovative summer partnerships are to think about who you know and who knows many or most of the community players that could benefit your program, and then utilize that contact to make more contacts and build relationships and partnerships. When new partners are brought on board, we develop and execute MOUs with each partner, so there's a clear definition of expectations for both parties, for them and for us. We also develop a very detailed enrichment activity schedule that is around when the meals are served, so that the kids are getting the meals and participating in the enrichment activities. And then, as I've already mentioned, we share our model with who might be interested. I network and network and network and network, present at a lot of different community meetings. Make sure that you reach out to folks who seem interested. Don't wait for them to contact you, because as we know, everyone's super busy. And I also would highly recommend over communicating. That really does work. And also, it's okay to start small and build. That's how we started, just really small, and now we build up to more than, well, 30 partners and more than 30 partners this year, and expanding our programs. And that's really when people see the list of partners, that's how we motivate others to come on board, because they want to be involved, they want to be part of this initiative in the community. And lastly, it's all about the relationships in addition, and the communicating, in addition to positive communication, any troubleshooting we were right on top of every day, and making improvements. So it's been a really exciting initiative. It's been really, really exciting to be able to convene the entire community, and utilizing our existing relationships to build on new relationships, and also to identify partners for grant dollars as well as we move through the summer. And that's about.
Thank you so much, Julie. We had a question that came in while you were speaking, and wanted to follow up on one of your previous slides. In your work evaluating, as you evaluate the partnership in Broward County and perhaps in other work you do in Florida, how do you determine the number of children fed compared to the number of meals served, as you illustrated in the slide previously?
Well, the number of children fed are the number of kids that are receiving the meals, and the meals that we serve in this particular subset of the summer food service program is lunch and snack. So most of the kids are getting 2 per day.
Got it. So is there like a math equation, or is it basically self-reported ADP, average daily participation? What kind of is the metric there to really identify how many kids are receiving meals?
That's literally taken from the Meals on Wheels of South Florida mobile program numbers that they keep track of every single day. So it's not an estimate. Actual. Is that what you're asking? Am I answering your question?
Yeah, I think so. And if our listener has a follow-up question, we can definitely come back to that. But thank you. That's great. Sure. Rachel, I wanted to ask you. We're really glad to have you as the SFSP director as a part of this webinar. We know that you have a broad perspective based on Julie's comments here on some. You have a broad perspective on the summer meals work happening in terms of outreach, implementation, and partnership. How does your team partner with Florida Impact to elevate examples of successful partnership like the one we just heard about in Broward County? And what, in your opinion, is the unique, the unique perspective that Florida Impact and the unique skill sets that they're bringing to bear in terms of expanding awareness of these kinds of partnerships in other parts of the state?
Well, hey, Derek, and hey, everyone on the call, and hey, Julie. Thanks for having me. That is a lot of questions smashed into one, Derek. As you were just a part of for the partners meeting that we hosted here in Florida, we do it every year, and it's sort of our debrief, which we've kind of in the last couple years turned it into more of a pep rally, if you will, and we've been doing it in January. It's called our Summer Break Partners Meeting, and we typically co-host with Florida Impact, and they help us bring all the folks to the table. And in this webinar, we did it as a webinar this year, we invite them to speak, actually, to talk about some of their innovative models. They always have wonderful things to report that they've been doing out in the field with our sponsors and some community partners. And then throughout, what was I going to say? Oh, the contacts. So we at the state agency, of course, invite all of our sponsors and all of their staff. But we look to Florida Impact to help us make sure we get everybody on that webinar that is currently helping us out with a summer program who maybe wants to help us out in the future. And it could be a sponsor, potential sponsor, or an organization, really anybody that wants to get fired up about summer. We come together once a year to have this partners meeting to really kick it off. And again, Florida Impact always brings forth some sort of model, which you heard today from Julie, on what they're doing with the summer program. What were some of the other, what else did you ask me, Derek?
That's perfect. That's fine. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Rachel. And I think it's just important as well for us to hear from state agencies. And I think we hear, we continue to hear, and I think it's important for voices like yours, Rachel, to really talk about the value add of work with nonprofit agencies. And Julie, I'd like to turn it back over to you. And, I know there may be some nonprofit leaders. We had a lot of community organizations that were on the call today. For folks that are listening in, what advice would you give for effective partnership with the state agency to promote partnerships, to achieve effective goal setting, working with the partner agency that administers summer meals?
Well, my advice would be to reach out to them, to visit their website, and to work closely with them. We have found the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Rachel's team, to be beyond excellent, very thorough, very responsive. I would highly encourage you to work with them. They are spot on and very efficient in the work that they do. And I also had on my notes at the end for the Q&A part to make sure to give a shout out to Rachel for that annual meeting that she described. That is really very important. It's a wonderful meeting for every year that they have. This particular year, we just had it a couple weeks ago. It was for returning sponsors, and they also give out awards to the summer food service program sites in under different categories. And I think it becomes quite a competition. It's really exciting to see who wins every year. Those who want to become sponsors and are considering it, they will be holding work or training sessions around the state in different regions. If you visit their website, you will see that listed, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and you'll see where those trainings are going to be held around the state. But I would highly recommend them. They're very involved at every level. And we have even had Commissioner Adam Putnam, the commissioner, the elected official from Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, visit our sites, learn about what we're doing, be very supportive. We've also had elected officials attend different events that we've had through the Summer Break Spot program and some of the innovative things that we've done. So working with Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and anybody that's in their administrative agency in their state in Florida, it's been a very positive experience for Florida Impact and for all the nonprofits that I work with who have worked with them as well. And organizations.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much. And I think as we listen to that, we can think about, opportunities to apply that same experience to work with other state agencies who may be looking for key partners as well. That's great. As we wrap up today's webinar, I want to just review a few key takeaways. it is never too early to cultivate opportunities for partnership, and there's no action that is too small to cultivate opportunities for partnership. Based on what we've heard from our partners in North Carolina and Florida, it's important to look for partners who share your mission, who know your audience. Setting goals is key to success. In North Carolina, it was about expanding the number of schools that were going to be sponsors. In Broward County, it was overcoming the transportation barrier that was keeping kids and families from accessing summer meals. And that when you succeed or when you have progress in those areas, celebrate. Celebrate the folks that make it possible. Celebrate with the folks that you are working with every day, and be sure to tell that story and to create that excitement and that movement around summer meals. Thank you so much, Julie and Rachel and Cynthia and Tamara, for your work. We are going to skip. We're going to skip to our last slide now. But for those of you on the webinar, would just encourage you to take action now. As we're wrapping up the webinar, please write down one concrete step you can take to enhance partnership in the week ahead. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It doesn't have to bring everybody in the county together. We know that we want to set ambitious goals for ourselves, but the way we achieve those goals is by taking individual steps in the direction that we want to go. So take a moment as we wrap up today, write down a concrete step that you can take to enhance partnership, and be sure to join us next month on Tuesday, February 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern for our follow-up webinar, our next webinar in the Schools Out, Foods In webinar series about leveraging mobile solutions to increase access to summer meals. Everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you as part of this network, this community of folks that are working to end hunger in the summer months. I want to again thank our partners at North Carolina DPI, No Kid Hungry North Carolina, Florida Impact, and the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services for being a part of this, for being on our expert panel. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you next month.